Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, returning guest, one of my favorite guests of all time, if not my most favorite. He's of course a WWE Hall of Famer, WCW Tag Champ, NWA Tag Champ, TV Champ. I mean, you name it, he's done it all. Double A, Mr. Arn Anderson, the Enforcer. Welcome back. How you doing, Double A?
Well, thanks for having me back again. It's great to see you, young man. I trust the world is treating you well.
Yes, very well. How about you? What's going on in your world?
Well, we work for AEW, and we're under contract right now. There's a full roster. It's hard to get everybody on TV every week, and we understand that. So Brock and I are going to reach out and go visit some schools and Dr. Tom's, and our school, obviously, the Billy Gunn and company are masterminding down there, QT in Atlanta. And we're going to do some independent stuff and some signings, and we're going to try our best to stay busy until they give us the call, and hopefully we'll be ready.
Love it. Of course, this is the eighth year anniversary show. I wanted to bring you on, one of my favorite guests, easily. So it's one of those things where it's like, wow, this is perfect. Eighth year anniversary. You always said if there's an anniversary coming up to bother you and to bring you on. So, hey, that's what I'm doing. So it's perfect for me to bring you on for this.
Well, I am honored, sir, and congratulations. Not many people can say they've sustained a podcast for 8 years. That's incredible. You must be a pretty decent guy to talk to, huh?
Sometimes I think, yeah, hopefully, anyway.
So, what else is new? Anything?
Not much. I feel like the wrestling world has been, pretty quiet, but then it ramps up. Like the Vince stuff happens, or the Punk stuff happens. It's like one of those things where sometimes it ramps up, then it slows down. It's like a roller coaster ride. The business.
Well, it's like nobody really gets interested till there's a bunch of negative news, and then everybody seems to perk up. I just refuse to, buy into that. I don't want to join in. There's nothing worse than a guy that's had a hell of a career and, is still, walking at least, limping maybe, but he's not in a wheelchair. That suddenly gets bitter about the business. And you and I've talked. I'm just business doesn't owe me anything. I owe this business everything. And getting to meet guys like you and be on your show and just talk wrestling and have fun in the past, it was awesome. And we did, a couple of appearances together. It's a wonderful world.
It's funny you were mentioned bitter. Your buddy, or your cousin, or your brother. I mean, whatever you want to call him, Ole. And I remember a few years ago when we were doing a signing, I said, I'm going to give him a call. You're like, all right, give it a shot. And he was not happy about, like, I'm not doing anything, screw this. But weird, like a guy like that, bitter about the business, because everything you hear, he made so much money from the business and he did so well. I guess some guys are just old bitter codgers, I guess, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, he made a couple of fortunes before the Horseman thing ever came up. When he was the boss, part owner in Atlanta, and he's working with Barnett. I mean, the guy's got 7 kids and a huge home, and he made a ton of money way back before he started making money, with the gig we had. So, I guess it's more of a health related thing. I know that I've always been healthy enough to pretty much do anything I wanted to during the day. But as you get older, man, I'm 64 and it's getting harder. And when your low back goes out, it stays out, and you need more sleep and all this stuff. It's just like as the time passes by, you realize, you'll never be young again, I guess now. And part of that, I think, is Ole. I mean, he was a guy that was very physical in the ring, worked out in, weight room. And to have that taken from you probably would make you a little bitter. Not giving him a excuse to be so grumpy, because everywhere I go and do signings, and you know this, one of the biggest and most asked questions, what's Ole doing? Is he ever going to do one of these with you guys? The fans want to see him.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine him in a Horseman reunion. Phew.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess, it's his choice, but be nice maybe one day just to, even if you only had one or a couple, it would be nice.
Yeah, I know he's got obviously health related issues, which would probably not want to make him do it anyway. But he was grumpy before that, well before that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So speaking of the Horsemen, what is your favorite and what is the best? So there's two, or maybe it could be the same of the pairing of the Horsemen.
I don't think you if when you, it doesn't matter what it is. A first, when you have a first at something, it's really hard and almost impossible to top that. And I think the first with Ole, that version of the Horseman, was very special. The most functional was with Barry because Barry just was the all around cowboy and he stepped right in that slot. He was such a great performer and such a great talent and such a fun guy to be around. He was just the opposite of Ole, you know.
Right.
So I would have to say, with no turning back, those two. And there was a lot of baby faces on the other side of the ring that were glad that combination was together because they never looked better in their life.
How is Barry nowadays? Have you talked to him?
I just hung up with Tony Hunter, who you know,
Oh yeah.
who does my bookings and all of my appearances. He just called as I was getting on with you. I told him I was going to call him back, but he did get in touch and find out that Barry is staying with Rotundo and he's getting better. I imagine he's going to have a long road back, you know, but it's good that he's got family and I'm sure they're looking after him, taking care of him, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. And that was a close call.
Man, yeah, he's such a nice guy, quiet guy. When you sit down and talk to him, but what a hand, what a great worker, what a great wrestler. You put him with you, Tully, and Flair. It's like holy crap, you can't get much better than that.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. Really, he was. And on either side of the ball, he was a fabulous baby face. As far as his work went, he switched gears over as a heel. He didn't miss a beat.
It's funny when he was younger, you would think there's no way he's Blackjack Mulligan's kid. Now, looking at him, he looks like the spitting image of Blackjack Mulligan. You know what I mean? It's like he grew into looking exactly like his dad.
Yeah, don't say that around Brock.
Oh,
He's the poor kid's 25, and people are already saying he's got the Anderson curse. He looks 37 already,
yeah.
and it's not a happy subject. Trust me.
But that's good though when he gets older because then be like, wow, you're, you know what I mean? Like he's gonna look, wow, Arn, I didn't realize you were that old. You look, he's so much younger. You know what I mean? He'll get that when he gets older.
Well, you and I will use that as like a rationalization. I'm not sure how true it is, but I'll go with that.
How is it working with Brock? I mean, that's pretty cool. You get to work with your son. He's kind of, stepping in your footsteps. He's the next Anderson. For real, though. He's a real Anderson.
Yeah, and you know what? He gets better every time. He has aptitude. He's got a wonderful attitude. He's very respectful. You know, growing up in this household, he knew to respect the business, and it's just a natural thing for him. And he's an intelligent kid, and he loves the business, and he's just when he can get more reps, I think he's going to improve just a little bit each and every time. And I'm just so proud to be out there with him. I can't tell you. I really am. I'm a proud papa.
That's pretty cool that he gets to do that. But there might be a little bit of pressure too, because being your son, knowing how good you were, it's like, man, you automatically think in your head, even like Pillman Jr., it's like he better be as good as his dad. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It could be a lot of pressure for a kid.
I think that's a natural thing. Got everybody that loves sports, and they have an old school that they grew up with, and now there's a new school. The tendency is to knock the kids that are coming up. Well, he's not his dad. Well, he shouldn't be his dad. He shouldn't try to be his dad. If there's similarities in his work, that's fine. But he's had his own style, and he's a pretty athletic kid. But he's not one of these guys that's going to. You'll never see him do a moonsault off the top rope to the floor. It just he doesn't have the skills. I didn't have them. He doesn't have them, and all you're doing is setting yourself up for a short career when you do that, and you don't have the talent for it. And I think he knows that. But I've always had this theory: you can't win a match in the air. You got to win it on the mat. So there's a place for mat wrestling. For the, it's okay to put a high spot in here and there and do a dive when it matters. Do a whatever they call them, a plancha over the top. If it makes sense, if it don't make sense, you're just taking a risk. And I'm gonna try to steer him clear of some of that.
To me, I might be more old school, but I love the guys that don't do that kind of stuff because it's crazy. That actually makes them different, makes them actually stand out more not to do that stuff nowadays.
Yep, they're in the minority, that's for sure.
Not that there's anything wrong with the flippity floppity stuff, but
Oh,
it's just I don't know. For me, it's certain taste as a fan. Sometimes there's a place for that, and sometimes it's overdone.
well, it's like I used to tell guys when I worked for WWE, and they would want to do this fancy stuff, and I'd say, great. All I'm asking is your agent slash producer is be better than Rey Mysterio at it. If you're better than him at it, have at it. If you're not, you're always going to look like you're second place. And
That,
that was just my philosophy. You don't want to look like a guy that is inept at what he's trying to do versus, well, I guess it just don't do what you can't do. What you can do, do well.
that's so true because if you look at it, it's like, man, that was, you know what I mean? Like if you see like a Ricochet or somebody do something crazy, and then you see another guy do it that's not as good, it's like, you automatically in your head are like that guy's not as good as Ricochet. It's just like do what you can do and don't try to copy someone else that can do it better than you. I mean, it's great advice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're just hurting your own perspective of yourself. You don't want to be he's a poor man's so and so, or he's a third place guy. He's just trying to be so and so. You just be you and just be a real good you. And if you're going to get over and you're going to connect with the audience, if it's supposed to be, then it will be.
Do you think there's too many risks being taken nowadays? Like because let's say you can't hit the move 10 out of 10 times, you probably shouldn't do the move, right? I mean, there seems like a lot of unnecessary risk out there sometimes.
Well, again, it's, there's a lot of guys that have had less matches. I bet if you sat down and got truth serum out and gave it to a lot of these young guys and said, how many matches in front of a live TV audience have you actually had in your career? We would all be shocked. And I'm not talking about workouts at the school or whatever the deal is. I'm talking about live circumstances, live crowd, front of the pressure, being on with a national company. In this business, there's only one way to get better: is to wrestle someone better than you and have reps, time after time, day, hopefully day after day after day. But that's the only way to get better. And the only way you get better is wrestling someone that has something they can teach you in the ring. They're just better than you are.
Great sound advice for sure. When you were coming up, though, who was like the guys that kind of helped you along and get to where? Like, how did you get to be so good?
My first mentor, the first guy I worked with when I got to Bill Watts was Tim Horner. And he taught me a lot about having a wrestling match inside the ring, no punching, no kicking, no fighting on the floor. And that was Bill Watts' rules anyway. Ted DiBiase, who was working on top at that time, came out and did something that guys never did in those days. He would come to the curtain and watch my matches, and he would pull me aside and go, "Hey, that was pretty good. That stunk. Take that out. This was pretty fair. That was really good." And he would rearrange it in a way that I went, God, he is so smart. And he was on top. He was a top guy. He understood the business. He had been working for a while. And he had aptitude and the great attitude that he had. And that was the first couple of guys that kind of got me a foundation going. Certainly being in the ring or being around Tully Blanchard and Rick and that host of baby faces, for God's and Ole too. Ole lended reality to a match. You would just watch him and go, "Oh God, I'm glad I'm on his team," because he would
Definitely.
be kicking the shit out of people, or so it appeared. But I think it was pretty snug, and that's where it came across. Tully was an incredible worker. All those baby faces, Rock and Roll Express, working with the Midnight Express. It was magic.
When you look at it, and I was just talking to Tully not that long ago, and we were talking about you and him being a team. He said you guys are the best team. Did you look at it that way? Like when you I know we mentioned some other great teams here, but did you look at it like we were probably the best team out there?
I thought we were because we knew what our objective was, and that was to get the baby faces over. We were going to get our little chunk of time, 3 or 4 minutes that belonged to us. If we could spend the rest of the time we had making those guys look like superstars, then we just did something to strengthen the company, you know. And when it was our time to get it, we were just the best team. We had the best strategy. We worked like a team. We cut the ring off and we kept the guy out of reach for a tag, and we just kicked the shit out of him. And then whatever happened happened for a finish. But I felt like we dedicated ourselves to what was best for the match and what was best for the company and for what was best for the business.
He said, which is kind of rare, I guess, for him, that he went back and he watched some of your old matches, like at Rockers, at MSG and stuff, and he was saying, "Man, how much you guys would bump and feed, and like your selling really made even like the Rockers, who were great anyway, but made them look even better than they were, which is kind of
Cool.
pretty impressive."
And that's our job. There's nothing worse than a heel that wants to outshine the babyface, because what you end up doing is you end up splitting the crowd and you end up turning people to like you. And if they like you, they don't like the other guy. And that just makes for a mixed reaction. Your job, back in the day anyway, was to be an ass, be an asshole, be a vicious, nasty asshole that nobody liked and would pay to see you get your ass kicked. Simple formula.
Hey, Tully had that in spades, right? I mean, everybody hated Tully. I mean, you had heat too, but he was hated big time.
Shit, I had to keep an eye on him in the locker room. Hell, he might get beat up in the locker room or at least attacked.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, though? Sometimes.
Well, it's a good thing. I mean, he had heat with everybody. It translated to heat with the boys, with the fans. I mean, just you could just see him just walking down the airport. People were looking at him like, "Well, that guy's a dick."
Flair had that likable quality to him, though. You guys didn't really. I mean, you guys are much more like, "Oh, I don't like these guys." Unless like me,
Yeah,
I liked you guys, but like the true fans that are in the arenas are like, "Man, I don't like these guys." But Flair's kind of cool.
yeah. I mean, that was his persona. I mean, who wouldn't want to have the sunglasses he had on, the shoes? Who wouldn't want to be the champion all the time? Who wouldn't want to be driving a Mercedes, Rolex watch, the whole thing? And we were, totally dressed nice. I was a little more dressed down. My job was to get in and do the fighting, and that was it. And I'm sure not that many people grew up wanting to be me, but that's okay. Because every time I'm at one of these signings or something, I'll always have 3 or 4 people go, "Can I say something to you without you getting mad?" I go, "Sure, man, go ahead." "My grandmother hated your guts." Then I knew I was doing my job.
Yep.
So let's talk about you for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
What have you done in the last 8 years you're most proud of?
Well, if you go through like the list of guys like interviewed and stuff, just this year alone, had on Hulk Hogan, which is a pretty good one, right?
Yeah,
Then ate your boy, Ric Flair, pretty good.
yeah.
You and Tully came back on, which is great. So some pretty big names. Sting was Sting might have been last year, but some pretty big names, pretty good accomplishments. Like many years ago, had Dusty Rhodes final interview that he ever conducted. So
Wow.
some pretty good ones. Bruno San Martino is one of the last interviews he ever did. So some pretty good big names though
Boy,
accomplished.
you can hang your hat on the Dusty Bruno thing alone.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows you didn't know at the time, but phew, that just gives me chills.
It's
big time.
absolutely crazy, especially the Dusty stuff, because then I talked to Cody, then I talked to Dustin a few times. I mean, it was pretty cool. Like it almost bittersweet because we were joking around with Dusty that we're going to do more with him, and we're doing this, and then obviously he passed away. So bittersweet because it's one of the things. It's like wow, something to hang your hat on. But then I wish I could have talked to him a million times because he's such a he's Dusty. You know that better than anybody. He's Dusty.
Oh, the strongest part of my career was the Crockett days, and he was our number one opponent. And I learned a lot about the business. I was able to do a lot of things for my family that most guys, to stay in a territory 3 years as a heel, it's unheard of. It just was. I mean, you can only get beat so many times. You lose your luster. And that Horseman deal got over. It was a hell of a gig. And with, everybody in both locker rooms, we were one family, and everybody was doing what they could do to help pull the load for the entire company. And man, we were successful. But that list you just ran through, that's pretty stout, my man, pretty stout. Let me just say this and I'm learning the social media thing and the podcasts and all that as I go. I'm really pretty stupid about computers, obviously. But let me just thank you and everybody like you that are a friend to the business, that help the business stay in a favorable light, help it grow, help it keep healthy. I'm a wrestling fan, probably one of the biggest. I'm sure you are as well. And it's just, I'm so thankful that it's still out there and still flourishing. And Brock can have a crack at having a job at the best business in the world.
That's awesome. Yes. And thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. Coming from you, that's huge. One of my guys. Like I always said to you, I always liked you better than Flair. I love Flair, but I always liked you better. I always like even Fall Brawl. I'm like, yes, Arn won. He beat Flair. Like that was awesome back in '95. Just because it was one of the things where Flair always got the adulation, but Arn was maybe a better promo. Arn maybe better in the ring, but everyone said Flair was. But to me, I'm an Arn guy, so that's awesome coming for you. Appreciate that.
Well, I don't know about any of that. You might not find too many people agree with you,
I
but
know
my,
somebody's gonna fight with me about it, but yeah,
oh,
too bad.
and I never claimed to be better than him. I just claimed to be different. And the being different that I think I did have a little bit of a handle on was just don't talk at the people, talk to them and give them something that in their everyday life they understand. And that's all a promo is. It's connecting.
And that Four Horsemen promo, I mean, that gave all of you guys new life. I mean, you guys were rock and rolling anyway, but that promo that you did that night, creating the Four Horsemen, put everybody on a stratosphere to the moon.
Yeah, it just clicked. It was just, don't ask me how, it just popped in my head and I went with it. And it stuck. It didn't take but about a week or two, and the audience got it, and it was one of those things that comes along. That grouping of guys has only came along one time in this history of the business. I don't know that you'll ever see a more eclectic, skilled, gets it group of guys than the original Four Horsemen and the version with Barry. So we were very, very lucky.
I love the original. I love the one with Barry. I'll throw another one out there. They didn't get enough time together, but you, Flair, Benoit, and Pillman. I love that foursome. I love that group. You guys just didn't get enough time together.
Well, and we didn't have a company behind us. We were just thrown together because it might have been a look good on paper, but you got to have the support of the creative. And I don't think we were ever meant to get a push. It was probably viewed that height mattered. If you ever
Hmm.
been in the ring with Benoit or Dean, height does not matter. Trust me.
Yep,
So
totally agree.
8 years. You think you'll have 8 more years?
God willing, I hope so. We got to bring you back again for the 16th year.
On the 16th year,
Yeah.
demand to be your guest.
Yes. Yes. But before
Okay?
we let Before we let you go, though, before we talk about the 16th year, just tell everybody where they can get like that awesome orange shirt and everything, about your podcast and everything about you.
Yeah, it's Box of Gimmicks. Go to my Twitter at the Orange Show. There's a separate Box of Gimmicks. There's a Horseman store. Brother, we just got some sweet hats and we finally got somebody to do the jackets right. And they're available. They're on the website. Take a good look at them. I mean, it's not what they do the stitching on these like the original jackets. It's not like it's however they did the other ones. I don't know what would you even call that, where they had the four horsemen thing on the back, but it's
Like
like it's
embroidered, I guess.
no embroidered's what we have now. It's the stitching. It's the real nice stuff. But it was like a God. It was almost like you laid a piece of paper down with an iron and went over it, and
Oh, they ironed it on. Yeah, it's horrible.
it
Yeah.
was so it wasn't what I was looking for. But now I got some pretty good headway going right now, and I'm trying to bring back the old Horseman stuff. That if you didn't get a chance to get the t-shirts and stuff, and I'm trying to blend in some new and some old, and for all those Horseman fans back from the day, man, grab you one of those jackets and grab you one of those hats. 'Cause they're sweet.
That's awesome. I actually found not that long ago in a bag it was from 95. I had worn it as a kid, but I remember I bought a second one and I never worn it. So now it's like brand new. The horse, it just the letter with the horse coming through the old school, awesome 95 era, awesome horseman shirt. But I was like, yes, it's basically brand new right out of the bag. This is
That's
great.
the shirt
Yeah.
in
Yep.
my mind.
Yes.
I mean, we got
My favorite one. Yep.
yeah, man, it was some good artwork on there. So I got to get running. I got some
Yes.
stuff I got to take care of. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Double A. Appreciate you. Have a good one. I appreciate it.
Stay in touch, okay?
Yep.
All right, John.